This crowd rises to its feet. Carl slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Donovan went to the lane, locked him. Only pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers fought all night long, but in the end, they suffered one of their most heartbreaking losses of the last few years. Joining me today to break this game down is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Bad.
Yeah. That hurts, man. Like, that's one of those games that, you know, when we talk about seasons, when we look back, you know, on the good times that we have in certain years, that's one of those kicks that really, really hurts. And I really thought that the Cavs came out and gave an effort to be proud of for the majority of this night. I thought they left it all on the floor. Donovan, you know, basically gave everything that he had physically. I thought guys that struggled in game one came out with tremendous effort in comparison to where they were at defensively. It seemed like they had a real opportunity to tie the series up at 1-1. You get a couple of days off, you're going to Indiana and basically having a mentality of, hey, we just got to get one of these two games in Indy. Then, you know, it's a best of three and we have home court once again. But the Cavs now have more of an uphill climb as a result of a second chance opportunity by Tyrese Haliburton and the game-winning shot that he delivered.
Yeah, I mean, it you have to call it what it is. It's a collapse. They were up 7 with 45 seconds left or something like that.
Yeah, 58 seconds. Yep.
And you knew, you know, if you've watched enough basketball, you know when a team is out of gas, when they have nothing left, and they are playing the clock more than they're playing their opposition. The inbounds plays where guys weren't even really cutting. They were just kind of standing there, kind of shimmying their shoulders and holding their hands up, dead legs, lack of ability to shake a Pacers team that has done this twice in the playoffs now. You through gritted teeth, you have to give them credit for how physical and tough they were.
Yeah.
And they made every play. And before Haliburton shot that shot, I knew the game was over. It was just one of those kind of endings that felt preordained.
Yeah.
Once
I literally knew that it was going in because I got a notification on my phone, which just, I hate that with delays.
Yeah. But I thought once they got it to 7, I was like, I just don't know if they've got this. And that's not, it's not to make an excuse, or to say when you say dead legs, I mean, Indy was playing hard too. They didn't, they didn't, it's not like, you look at the minutes totals on either side of the floor and you saw one team with, it's not like a Knicks box score where you saw 5 guys with 46 minutes and the other team all in the mid 30s and you go, yeah, I get why the Knicks ran out of gas. To some extent, Indy came and stole their chain to end the game, and it's a freaking killer. I feel like right now, and it's interesting because in this game, it felt like the Cavs were fighting a losing fight against time. And in this series, they're fighting a losing fight against time because it's more important to have won this game to help extend the competitive portion of the series more than it's important just for whatever sliver of a chance that Darius and Evan and DeAndre, you buy him a couple days extra of healing and recovery. And now, if Darius wasn't quite ready to go, you got to be like, well, I guess just try it in game 3, like if he can even do that, you
Whereas
win
if
this
you get
game.
this one, then you're in a position that, okay, if you're not able to go until game 4, like you really just have to get the one in Indy, right? And now you're in a position where you got to get both, right? And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Like you're going to have to kind of compartmentalize and say, all right, we got to go out and find a way to take game 3. You take game 3, once again, you're going to, I can't even say you have to get greedy because you're in do it or die time. You only have one loss to play with here. But you have to have that kind of mentality. And the frustrating thing is I agree with Kenny Atkinson's assessment postgame. I thought that for the majority of this game, they did outplay Indiana. He said his one regret that he had was that he shortened the rotation in the second half. He felt that, I didn't play enough guys. We ran out of gas, not only on those inbounds where you weren't creating separation, the same thing was happening in the half court. And, the end of the game got extended a lot with reviews, with free throws, things like that. Indiana was definitely making a point the entire night that anytime they were going to foul, they were going to make sure that, it's going to be a foul, right? Like Aaron Nesmith is putting his arm around guys' necks and he's bringing them to the ground.
He had his leg on the top of Donovan's neck on one particular possession.
Like they're finishing their checks, right? Like that's basically the way that they are playing throughout the night. And I thought the Cavs did a really good job of responding to that for the most part. But you're right. Like you got to find a way to get the ball in, right? You're up 7 seconds, or you're up 7 points with 58 seconds in the bonus, and you don't get another point. You at least have to find a way to get the ball in bounds and get a trip to the free throw line because they're going to be intentionally fouling. And they weren't able to do that. You absolutely have to. I think there's going to be, if I had to guess, there's going to be things that we're going to find very frustrating tomorrow on the last 2-minute report. When Pascal Siakam was shooting his free throw as the ball was leaving his hands, Aaron Nesmith is already at the free throw line. Like that's probably going to be something that's pointed out, not something that they could review. To be fair, when they reviewed that play, that's not a reviewable part of that play. And then I think the same thing is going to happen for Haliburton, who was in the middle of the key before the ball touched the rim. You're not allowed to do that. I think both of those lane violations are going to be called, but you shouldn't have been in that position where you could have got burned by those things. And that's, it's a frustrating reality. It's, the beauty of basketball, and it's also the pain of basketball, that what you do for 47 minutes is a large part of the story, but you got to play a complete 48. And unfortunately, a combination of running out of gas, the mistakes that come as a result of that, and not finding a way to get the ball in bounds and get that trip to the free throw line ultimately cost them.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's really crushing is the cost of what they spent, both in terms of their their physical outputs, but even just in terms of what they spent in terms of the performances they got. Donovan, I just don't know if you can count on that kind of Donovan performance again. He was cramping up. He had nothing left. He was exerting so much energy every single second he was on the floor. I know he didn't have a crazy high minutes game, but that level of offensive output is nuts. And like, I was sitting watching it and thinking, this isn't the Orlando series from last year where he drops 50 and the Cavs don't top 100 points. And, I think both you and I left that game going, that can't be the plan. Like that level of ball dominance can't be the plan because there's not enough there's not enough going on elsewhere. And like maybe that was a little bit the case, but like Cavs had a 125.6 offensive rating with Donovan on the floor in this game. Like he did elevate their offense. This was not just sponging possessions because there wasn't anyone else. He really was magnificent tonight. And I feel really sorry for him to have a game like that wasted.
Yeah, and what have we talked about so many times, right? When you talk about an offensive possession, if the ball swings to you and you're open and you don't take the shot, you are, you're hurting the rest of the offense. You're likely not getting a good shot on that possession. It felt like with Donovan, the opportunities he had to go downhill, if he's not taking the shot, if he's not, getting to the rim, if he's not getting to the free throw line, that was the best look on those possessions. The Cavs had a really, a lot of success getting into the paint, getting downhill. I think that was one of the most encouraging things of this game. And honestly, the one consistent thing that they've had against Indiana so far is they've managed to get into the paint, right? We saw a lot of guard-to-guard screening, Isaac Okoro in particular, getting Tyrese Haliburton involved. Good things were coming as a result of that. When three-point opportunities opened up, Donovan was finding the right guys. It's just on the majority of these plays, the best possible option was him going up and finishing. But, as you said, that took a physical toll. I think this is a playoff career high for him for free throw attempts. Every single one of those attempts was earned. Like he's hitting the ground. He's being tackled by Pacers, right? Like they're making him feel it every single time. It's, I look at this game, and when we were talking last night with Lima, a lot of what we wanted to see and a lot of why I felt the Cavs could come out and win this game was what we saw. Donovan Mitchell stepping up as the best player. You still have Jared Allen, who's an all-star caliber guy. He goes for a playoff career high in terms of points. I thought he had a very strong game. Max Strus stepped up in the ways that you want to see. Dean Wade, I thought, stepped up with the hustle plays and the defense. Offense wasn't really there for him tonight, but I was happy with his overall effort. Max Strus and Sam Merrill, two guys that we identified as not playing well at the point of attack defensively. I thought both of them stepped up in terms of their intensity and their physicality on the defensive end. They got the contributions we wanted to see. They had a real chance to win this game. It's just so deflating. And, this is the kind of stuff when we preview a playoff series and we say, I can see this going 5 or 6 games. This is the type of outcome that, typically extends the series where you say, you might have one where things just don't go your way. You have a weird finish. Some of it might be your fault. Some of it might be bad luck. But when you're in this situation, it has the potential to do the opposite, right? Because now Indiana has won 2 games in Cleveland, and you're facing a real uphill climb to go on the road and extend this series.
Yeah. I mean, this could be over in 4. That Indy is a really, really good home team. Mm-hmm. They feel like they've got this series in the bag. They absorbed the desperation game from Cleveland. And Cavs are in real trouble. The fact that none of the 3 injured Cavaliers were able to go through shoot around today, very scary.
There was reports that Darius was putting in work on the treadmill, trying to, do some interval training and stuff like that. Obviously, it didn't respond well enough for him to even go out and do the pregame shoot around, right? Chris Fedor was mentioning through the day, the sense he got talking to Darius was, go and give it a try. That's really discouraging that like these guys who are all want to play, right? DeAndre said after the game, hey, I'm going to play for game 2. Wasn't physically able to, right? Like you can have the intentions, you're going to want to go out there and prove yourself. Seeing the beat reporters talking about their conversations with Evan Mobley and how dejected he was, struggling, to put weight on his foot. Like this is serious stuff, man. And I think it goes back to what you were saying before about how this was an opportunity to extend the series and buy them a little bit more time. I don't know what the likelihood of these guys being able to return in the series is. And like from a fan standpoint, I'm sitting here, I'm bitter. Like I'm feeling bitter. I'm frustrated by that. Like, I do my best to not let that impact my analysis, but it hurts, man. Like everything you did everything right this season, right? Like you did everything to manage minutes. You did everything you could to not be in this position. It looked like you weren't in this position. And, two bad landings, or really three bad landings, because Darius appeared, I think he landed on a fan courtside. Three landings in the playoffs were enough to change your luck. And, we talked about appreciating that things can change in the blink of an eye, and you have to be in the moment, and you have to be able to enjoy it. But as much as as much as we talk about that throughout the season, I'm convincing myself to do that at the same time, right? Like I'm trying to remember to myself and reflecting on it and looking back at it right now. I'm like, I still took that for granted. I still, assumed, hey, we're going to be healthy for this run. We're at least getting this year. And, for that to be such a major part of the story, it's frustrating.
And you don't get to choose how you build your contender. There's so much luck that comes into it. You don't just get to choose to add a LeBron or whoever it may be. But so this isn't like a criticism of the team building, but like this is the risk of being a strength in numbers. We got 4, 5, 6 guys that can all help on any given night, but we don't have a top one guy. We don't have a LeBron. Like this is the challenge. This is the reason why everyone wants a LeBron and why everyone wants a Luka. Is like like there is just you get two guys banged up, and
I mean, that can still happen to the one. Like, Steph Curry just left the game. Luka's been hurt a million
has missed
times.
Playoff series. There's no one road up the mountain, but like it does feel, it's felt often to me that this Cavs team has that, that Swiss watch quality where, like when everything's kind of good, everything's great, but, it just takes a couple kinks and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got one guy. Ty's having a bad game, so we got one guy who can run a pick and roll.
Yeah.
Evans hurt. Dean Wade, backup center, saddle up. And like, these are all the challenges that come with roster construction. You don't get to build a perfect team, and you don't get to choose who gets hurt. And like, you can only insulate in so many spots. Like, I thought they did a great job of covering for DeAndre Hunter's absence tonight. I did not spend a lot of possessions going, damn, if only DeAndre were out here.
Honestly, I thought they did a great job of covering for no Evan, right? Like that's the anchor of our defense. And I thought they did one of their best jobs at the point of attack, limiting dribble drive penetration for Indiana. There was a lot of times where the Pacers weren't able to get the Cavs into rotation and generate the same types of looks. I thought, that goes to show you, as much as you talk about roster construction and personnel and your strengths offensively and defensively, a lot of it does come down to execution and effort. And I thought the execution and effort was absolutely there. I thought that they had enough to go out there and win tonight. It's just frustrating to not come away with that win, right? And it's one of those that's going to stick with you. It's really, really, you got to give Indiana credit for continuing to fight throughout that game and putting themselves into a position to capitalize on it. But yeah, it's
up there with one of the most painful losses in the franchise's history. It is. Because of the context of what this team has been all year, nothing will ever top 2018 game 1 for me. I was one of those go to bed miserable, wake up miserable games for me, just because I truly felt like that Golden State team was ready to splinter and crack. And next year they did. But
that one still didn't hit.
Yeah, I know.
Hard,
this is one of our biggest differentials in terms of like my pure uncut misery after that game. But this is right up there and maybe worse. This is a great vibes Cavs team who won 64 games. That 2018 team, even as someone who is on the upper end of the respect the second LeBron era enjoyers, even to the bitter end, like that was not a good vibes team. That was not a team that, that was a team that easily could have lost in the first round, if you'll recall. And, it just feels like we're so far away from being up by 60 against Miami. Just like, what,
it's just
9 days ago?
Away. Yeah, that's the crazy thing, man. Like,
I thought this team was ready to go, maybe win a title coming off of that series. And whether it's the injuries, whether it's the execution down the stretch, it feels like it's slipping away a little bit. It's not over yet by any means. Yep. They absolutely can come back and make this a series, but like it does kind of feel that way right now, sitting in a fan seat.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's one of the things you almost forget with how easy the Miami series was. Every loss feels like the end of the world in the playoffs. Like that's just the nature of the beast. Obviously, it feels even worse when you're down, guys. We have seen the Cavs lose 2 games at home in the playoffs and come back to win a series. Now, obviously, those were different teams, but you don't know what teams are capable of until you see them in those situations, right? And I think we're going to continue to learn more and more about this team. And based on what we see, that's going to continue to inform, as you like to say, the lessons you're going to learn. But I think your point about, hey, you're never going to have a perfect roster. You have to, you have to make the most of the talent that's available to you. That's what it is, man. You don't get to pick and choose who's on your team. You don't get to pick and choose outcomes, but you do get to pick and choose what type of video conferencing you want to use. And only you can do your best work, Carter. Zoom AI Companion can help you do the rest, like automatically taking notes, answering meeting questions, and helping you respond to your coworker. Available at no additional cost with eligible paid plans. Work happy with Zoom AI Companion.
Shouts to you with a somber ad read.
Know who is working happy and working hard in a way that really warmed my heart. We touched on him before, but I want to give a shout out to Max Strus, because if I could pick and choose, who's on this roster, I would clone a million Max Struses. I would build the entire plane on Max Struses, because that guy plays hard. That he worked his ass off. The extra possessions. You talk about indie fouling physically and putting the lumber into guys. Max was making you feel him out there. Like when he was setting a screen for Tyrese, he was making sure there was a little extra on there. He was physical the entire night. He hit big shots. That transition dunk that he had was phenomenal. I thought it was almost a perfect Max Strus game.
Yeah, up until that turnover at the end, throwing the ball away.
Yeah,
but even that, I don't really put on Max. They were out of timeouts. He had to put the ball into play, and as I mentioned, 4 Cavaliers were sitting there, being hugged and shimmying their shoulders and putting their arm up feebly, like it's not like he missed a wide, an open receiver streaking wide open 30 yards down the field here.
It was a jump ball.
He had no targets.
Yeah, and what I was going to say was not a perfect game in terms of being mistake free, but being resilient within that play, right? Like I thought, you have a little rut there where you're not hitting threes, you step up and you hit that big one to put the Cavs up 7. I just thought it was a terrific game from him. I thought Jared really stepped up and had a great game. The one thing I'll say about how Jared was used in this one was, at the start, we were really getting some good actions out of him, out of the short roll, both as a scorer, and he had 3 assists pretty early on in the game. Kind of felt like we got away from that a little bit, and I understand we were able to get downhill a lot. The guard-to-guard screening was generating a ton of good looks. Getting Tyrese Haliburton into action was resulting in a lot of good looks. But I just felt like that was potentially something they could have gone to a little bit more to see if, hey, maybe Jared has a little bit of gas here. It can finish in these spots, maybe kick it out for some catch and shoot threes. Maybe that could be something that generates us some offense when we're looking tired as hell out here.
Yeah, it feels so stupid to talk X's and O's right now. Like it's really hard. But there is stuff, there is stuff that there is to take away, Indy didn't just magic away the Cavs offense in the final 5-6 minutes of that game. What they did was they just started blitzing and extending their coverage further and further and further and further away from the hoop. When they were running some of those plays, there was, Haliburton was showing all the way out to damn near half court on some of these guard pick and rolls. And like, I do think that's where you really felt the lack of Evan and even the lack of Darius and the lack of Ty Jerome having the worst game of his life, which we haven't hit on yet. Just an absolute, disaster performance for him. And I think he'd probably tell you that. But like, if they've got 2 to 3 guys pressuring the ball at half court in a half court possession, you've got to provide a release valve and attack the hoop. And I just felt like that's where Okoro let you down in terms of consistent ability to attack. That's where, heavy legs let them down, where they just kind of said, Donovan, just you split it. And, he split it a couple times. But like, not enough shooting, not enough sharp decision making against that pressure. I'm sorry, you need to be able to make the Indiana Pacers pay when they're putting 2 on the ball at half court. We watched the Cavs make the Miami Heat pay when they put 2 on the ball at half court consistently. And yeah, the personnel was better. Yeah, Ty was having a great series, and then he had, again, just a nightmare game. Shorted every single floater, even the ones that were off a good foot, not the Ty Jerome special, but off the normal floaters for normal guards. He was aiming them. And I just think, really I don't want to, the team collectively lost the game, obviously. Yeah. But the fact that they just couldn't count on Ty to help at all. 2 points on 14 field goal attempts, 4 assists, 4 from 3. When you're down,
it's tough, man. Like,
you made the right choice, in my opinion, because we talked with Lima, and you're like, they should start Ty because you want 2 ball handlers. You want to be able to attack Indiana from multiple sides of the court, and they couldn't tonight because Ty couldn't do it. And like, it's just a bummer outcome. There's so much about this game that you just kind of go, like, you want to talk the X's and O's, and like, you're right, like some of the pressure relief stuff is there, and some ways to cover, but then so much of this game goes down to, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
And and that's why I think they're going to have a hard time bouncing back from this.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pile on Ty. You win games collectively, you lose games collectively. I know everybody, when you have a painful loss, they look for a scapegoat, right? Like they look for their pound of flesh, whether it's guys that weren't able to give it a go that were trying to play, whether it's someone that was out there that struggled. I think every single player up and down the roster, the coaching staff, all has plays, all has moments within this game that they would have back. I'm not going to pile on there, but I think it does show when you reach playoff level defense, when you play a real team like the Indiana Pacers that's been playing great basketball for a while now. If you're part of that starting unit, you're going to face another level of pressure, right? And I think what they were able to do with Nembhard, with Nesmith in particular on the perimeter, just made Ty feel uncomfortable. And that's a level of game planning he's not used to seeing in the regular season. I think he's going to be more equipped to handle that in Game 3, whether it's coming in off the bench or whether he's called upon to start again. But it was definitely a tough night for him, and I like the fact that in this game there was less soft switching than we've seen in previous matchups. There was still some of it, but I thought for the most part they were allowing guys to fight through screens if that was there. The one thing I gotta say is if you are going to switch some of these possessions, you kind of gotta live with the results a little bit. I saw Matt Moore was tweeting about this as well, where Jarrett is switching some of these Miles Turner pick and roll, pick and pop situations, and then he's out there scrambling and over helping after the fact to get back out to Turner, and you just gotta kind of live with the results. Like if you're giving up those shots, you gotta live with it, because once you get into that scramble mode, if there's a second chance opportunity, you're not going to be able to recover from that. You have to kind of live with your defensive coverage and stick to it. And if the coverage isn't working, you change up the coverage, but you have to execute it. And the other thing is, from an execution standpoint, the end of quarter threes is something that, just that extra 10, 5-10 seconds of focus and effort.
It's 12 points a game for Indy right now.
It really is, right? Like, it's just, hey,
in the most literal sense tonight, quarter, probably.
You know that they are out there. They're going to try to get that three-pointer at the end of the quarter. They're going to try to kick it out to the corners. You know that they're going to get out in transition. They're going to find ways to leak out and get these opportunities. Little things like that. It's the little things in the margin that, when you're up 15 or you're up 18, I think at some of those opportunities, doesn't feel as bad. Hey, you got points to play with, but you see how it has an effect at the end of the game, right? And it's that kind of stuff that makes me not dwell on struggles of someone individually like a Ty Jerome, and focus on kind of the picture as a whole, because it's little plays throughout the entire game that end up to amounting to that end result.
Yep, man. It's I gotta tell you, and by the way, this is why it's so stupid, and I'm very guilty of this, for pre-dooming, because it doesn't make the loss any easier. It doesn't make it, talking about, you saw some of my DMs after it was very clear that all three of these guys were not going to play. The pre-misery doesn't actually save you from the post-game misery. No. It's better to try to be calm and rational and try to find the fun in it, because I'm in no better shape for having prepped myself emotionally for that outcome. And
that's why, I'm not doing that with game 3. Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, you know what? If the Cavs go out and they win game 3, I'm going to get excited again. I want to say, hey, now you just got to win one more game. And that's got to be their mentality. You look at the post-game quotes, you look at, the post-game interviews, they got an edge to them still. Kenny said, hey, the locker room wasn't sitting there dejected. They know what they need to do. I'm going to give these guys the benefit of the doubt, because they showed me a lot of heart tonight.
They showed a lot of heart even in the Celtics series last year. I went and pulled it up, and those final games, if you box score hunt from that playoff series, like, it looks like they let go of the rope. Boston wins game 5 by 15 points, but like, they really played their ass off.
They almost won game 4 without Mitchell, without Allen. They almost found a way to win game 4. And, I hate the fact that, hey, when you're missing 2 of your core members, you've found a way to almost win. Like, I hate that we're in that situation again in the second round, because we want, we want usable tape. We want to be able to assess this core, and
well, maybe that's part of the assessment. It's all data.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to have to be. But it is frustrating to be in that situation. But I think the fight that we've seen this team show gives me belief that they can go out and win game 3. Yeah. And if you win game 3, you have a chance to then take game 4. And if you manage to do that, it's a brand new series. Donovan talked about how he expects guys to be back for Friday. We'll see if that ends up being the case. We know that everyone's going to be giving it their best to try to go out there and compete. It's, what you want and what is physically possible, and whether, actually in the team's best interest? Because it's one thing to go out there and attempt to play, but are you actually going to be a positive? That's the kind of thing that the medical staff has to assess. We'll see what type of shape they're in on Friday, but at least they have the extra day off. I think that's one thing that this team sorely needed.
Yeah. Yeah. You hope you see something. You hope you see. I'm actually not. I'm not worried about this team's ability to play with pride, ability to play sharp. And recover. I know I picked Cavs in 5. I think if you just read that headline, you would be like, "Oh, you big idiot! You thought this was going to be an easy series for the Cavs," and I really do have so much respect. I've had a lot of respect for this Indy team since before the season even started. I've thought they were a better team than their record all year. And
you've been consistent on that.
And I think Rick Carlisle's a top 2 coach in the NBA. They're not just gonna give it to you. You're gonna have to take it from them. And I'm a little worried about the team's ability to muster the juice to do it at this point.
Yep. But hey, if I thought that this team could win in 5 and there's 5 games left, it's still possible, baby.
You're damn right it is, brother.
We could still put that theory to the damn test, Carter. So we'll see if they can start that road, take that first bite out of the elephant in game 3. Thank you for everyone tuning in live on YouTube. I understand it's late. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chasedown's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.